It just makes me happy if people like it. That's all I can say. It's just if they enjoy this, and if this is a huge house. I mean, we live upstairs, we live above the hostel, but if I can share this beauty here and all the knowledge I have from traveling with my guests, and they appreciate it and they're happy that they found it, and they tell me about it and they come back again, then that's what I'm mostly proud of. Pretty much making this little tiny hostel known and still running after 20 years.
Hello, friends and travelers. Thanks for listening. You are riding along on the Hostel Road Trip Podcast. Our mission is to spread awareness of the true hosteling experience in the Americas and share stories from the fascinating hosts who create those unique facilities. I'm your host, Jimmy Black, joined alongside co-founder of International Travelers House, Bobby Dyer. Each session, we sit down with hostel operators or travel influencers to hear about their road to success, discuss trending hostel topics, and close with tips for travelers who are seeking to have the ultimate experience when visiting each destination. You can't afford to miss this trip. Now fasten your seatbelts and let's hit the road.
Welcome back to the Hostel Road Trip Podcast. I'm Bobby Dyer, filling in for Jimmy Black as he's out today. But we are joined with Stephanie from the Cloudcroft Hostel in Cloudcroft, New Mexico. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, Bobby.
Nice. Thanks so much for coming on. So, excited for our conversation today. I know we've met many times at hostel conferences and we've been connecting on WhatsApp about what's going on in the industry, but I'm excited to really dig into the story at your journey on how you first got into hostels, as I know you've got quite a bit of experience. So, I would love to kick it off and learn more about your personal journey. What was it? What was your story like to get into hostels?
Well, I grew up in Germany and I'm born in Germany, and hostels are way more frequent. Every little town has one. And I grew up with it. My grandparents actually had a hostel. So my dad grew up in it. So I heard all the stories. They didn't have a hostel anymore when I was grown up. But I also stayed in a lot of hostels during school trips and traveling myself. And it was just a common thing. It was not even a question. Everybody knew what a hostel is. So coming over here, I hadn't lived here yet, but I took a cross-country trip on my motorcycle by myself from New York to Los Angeles, and was looking for hostels and stayed in some hostels and figured out there's some states who don't have any hostels at all. And I did like it was a different vibe, the hostels in the United States than the one in Europe at that time. It's like 1995, the first time. It's been a while. They were just different. And then in the second trip, I met my ex-husband on my second motorcycle trip. I took two of them, like 5 years apart. And
Wow.
He's older, and he was also ready for a change. So I went back to Germany. He kind of followed me, and then we talked back and forth what to do because he didn't care for Germany. It's not his thing. And talked about opening up a hostel. And I had fallen in love with New Mexico on my first trip. And so I pretty much 1999, I decided 2000, end of 2000, I decided to give up my life over there, pack everything up, including my old cat, and moved over here. And we actually moved on into a tent because he didn't have a house. And we started somewhere in the northern part of New Mexico and looked all over for a property we wanted because I had a specific place in mind. I didn't want to be a city hostel. I did not want to be in a city. I wanted to be a country hostel, but I didn't want to be too far away from a city or for anything where you can buy groceries and stuff like that. So we ended up finding this property, what was a complete package heaven. That's how I describe it. And when there was so much stuff on it, it was incredible. But anyway, so we had the idea. I have given up the life in Germany. We lived in a trailer in Alamogordo and worked every day on this house. And then eventually we ran out of money. So I went back to work full time, working in those cruises as an architect. What is my training? I'm not licensed, but that's my training. in architecture. And yeah, so it took a little longer, but 2006 we finally opened up. So this year in September, it's 20
Jeez.
years.
How many how many states were you motorcycling through? I'd love to hear that's part of the motorcycle journey. Did you bring your bike over? Did you pick one up when you got to America or what? And then
No,
how long were you cruising around before you rolled into New Mexico and was like, this is it?
I took the first trip. I brought my motorcycle over because it was actually it was a bike I knew. It was reliable, and renting one for 3 months would have been really expensive. So I took 3 months. Each of the trips were 3 months. Only took as much as I can blue highways, the little highways, no interstates. And the first trip I started up north in the uh, like New Hampshire and all that, and went down, and then it was kind of in the fall, so it was a little late for. I wanted to go across Montana, but it was too late. I didn't realize that, so I went down Kentucky, Tennessee, and then over to New Mexico, Arizona, and then California.
And
And the
did you know
second,
you wanted to make a hostel the whole time or you just
no, not
exploring?
first trip. I not at all. First trip was a different life. The second trip, I didn't know either yet that we wanted to open up a hostel until my ex, like kind of almost towards the end of the trip. And like I said, we were when he came to Germany, we talked about future where we want to live. I didn't thought about opening up a hostel. First, I was like, yeah, well, a hostel. I didn't thought it was something special, because I grew up with it, and it was just something what everybody knew. But I never thought to be. I'm a designer. I mean, in architecture and art and all this stuff. So I never thought running a hostel, but talking more and more, and I thought it'd be actually kind of cool and doing it in a mixture between European and American style, kind of.
Was there a hostel you stayed at that you were inspired by and you were like, I could do this? Or, when that kind of moment when you guys thought that maybe we could do this? Was there
Well,
a
I
hostel you
think
visited?
he never stayed in hostels before. That was the interesting part. And
Oh,
then
wow.
when we met and we were traveling in New Mexico, I really liked the Towers Hostel too. And they've been around since a long time. I think they closed now or flipped it over to a more kind of mini hotel, something like that. And I think that's when he, the first time, kind of experienced what a hostel is, like cooking together and meeting people and stuff like that. So I like the Towers Hostel. I also like the Albuquerque Hostel that doesn't exist anymore. And there were some hostels, I don't even remember the name because they're not existing anymore. They were out in the middle of nowhere. There was like nobody there. It was just one little house where you stayed. So, but like I said, at that time, I didn't thought about opening up a hostel. It was just something common to me. But then getting into it, yeah, that'd be really cool to do.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And then, so let's talk about Cloudcroft. Paint the picture. What is Cloudcroft like? What's a nice day in Cloudcroft like?
Well, we are not exactly in the town. I've just kind of adopted the name to it because I think we're kind of all feet off this little town. We're 10 minutes below Cloudcroft.
Okay.
It's a tiny little mountain village, 9,000 feet high. So this mountain range where we're in here is the last end part of the Rocky Mountains, pretty much, the last little mountain range. So what is really special about here is that we are between two national parks. So
Nice.
there's Carlsberg Cavern, and what is about 3 hours away, and then there's White Sands National Park, what is a half hour away. And the mountain range is really cool because within 20 minutes you go from 9,000 feet to 4,500 feet. And so you have this. I read this an article a long time ago. This road is called the downfall of New Mexico because you go through like three different climate changes, temperature changes. In the summertime, you need a jacket sometimes in Cloudcroft when the rainy season is, and then it's 100 degrees in Alamogordo.
Wow.
It's a
Quite a
pretty
diverse
Yeah,
landscape.
it's a pretty interesting area, landscape-wise. And White Sands National Park, it used to be a national monument when we opened up the hostel, and they made it a national park, I believe like 3 or 4 years ago. And that brings in, I realized, a lot more people. A lot more people know this area because it's a national park now.
Yeah, that's great advice there. So many visitors for other hostel owners listening, being close to a national park, that demand generator is huge. And, really targeting the guests that are heading to that national park as hostels are great options for so many of those kind of travelers.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, everything is pretty expensive here. I mean, you can get some really cheap Motel 6 in Alamogordo, but it's not the nicest town. But up here in the mountains, we're the most affordable place to stay.
nice. So you found the building, fixed it up. Tell us about day one, opening day. What was that like at Cloudcroft?
It was actually not fixing up a building because it looked like a building. I don't know if you've seen, there's some pictures on the website, but we pretty much almost had to demolish everything. We could keep the basic structure and rebuild it.
Wow.
And then yeah, I mean the first day opening up, the first guest, that was pretty exciting. That was pretty cool. But when I look back at those pictures and compare them with them now, and was like, oh my God, it was kind of scary looking.
Right? Yeah, no, I feel you there. How many beds do you have at Cloudcroft?
We sleep up to 25 people. So we have three private rooms with individual bed arrangements from 2 to 4 and two shared rooms. We don't have a co-ed room. We have one for women and one for men.
Interesting. And have you being open for so many years? I know we have a hostel in the mountains and you got to kind of learn the market and figure out how to make money. Is it being in a remote town, it can be difficult. Have you changed focused on groups more or changed this kind of setup of the property through the years, or what have you found has kind of worked best for you being in a mountain town like
Well,
that?
at the very beginning, when we opened up, we had only two private rooms and three bunk bedrooms. And then the bunk beds is the one that sells the least, pretty much. But I like to keep them because I rent them also as a private group room, or I rent the whole hostel as groups. And
Mhm.
it's really hard to focus or change. I mean, if I would get rid of the bunk bedrooms and make this all private rooms, I'd probably make more, but then it's not a hostel to me anymore for some reason.
Yeah,
And we put so much work in remodeling the bunk bedrooms. I don't want to just change them right now. And I do like it because through the bunk bedrooms, I can get more people in as a group. Now,
sure.
last years, the group were really helpful. Groups were helpful to kind of hold this up. This year, everything is out the window. So this year, I'm just trying to get through this and see where things are going before I do some major changes. We had done updates over the years that we upgraded, mainly in the pandemic, we upgraded all the bunk bedrooms, all the private rooms, and then 2024 we remodeled the kitchen completely and doubled it in size, what people really, really like. So those are
Nice.
main upgrades, and then it's just, regular upgrades.
Being with the architect background, is that the part that you really dig into and the design element of it? Or
Yeah.
what have you found? Yeah, you've nice. Tell us more about I don't know, any advice on the design side or anything you can think of when you're putting together a hostel?
I the feedback I'm getting and what I liked compared from, because I took my ideas how to design is, I mean, it was limited on what I had, what space I had to work with, but I wanted it pretty clear and straightforward. I didn't want that people have to run through hallways and don't know where to go, and people really appreciate it. That it's just straightforward. I mean, it's basically a hallway and the rooms go off, and then we have living room and kitchen. But it is all really clear to everybody how this works and how this functions. I get a lot of comments on the colors. I do love colors, and as you can tell, I love colors, and I don't see that enough in places. I see it more in hostels because they're a little bit more artsy than other places.
Yeah, the freedom. That's the cool thing about having a hostel. You can really make it, I always say, it's like a sculpture, and you're always fixing the sculpture, repainting it, readjusting it. It's a never-ending art piece.
Well, and the cool thing is about hostels, what I learned over, going to conferences and talking with also hostel owners and websites and whatever, there is no rule how a hostel has to be.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, if people ask me, said, well, I would like to open up a hostel, so the cool thing is you can do whatever you want. You can
Yep.
have all private rooms, you can have all bunk beds, you can have one room, you can have two rooms. It doesn't matter because there is no rules how to have it. And I think the individuality, this is what I enjoy about the hostel, that I'm not in a hotel category because
Hmm.
we can be different. And, we offer something completely different, what is still, I mean, 50% of my guests never stayed in a hostel.
Right. Yeah, it's amazing how much especially in the American market, it's so much about educating them and breaking down the barrier, letting them feel comfortable. Okay, now you run the hostel, I believe you said by yourself, a one woman shop, or what is your operation like for
Pretty
keeping?
much by myself. I mean, I got divorced in 2014 and have a new partner 2018, but he's more in the background. He's not big about the organization and all this stuff. He helps me a lot with maintenance if something breaks, but pretty much the cleaning, everything. I do the whole thing by myself. I have a cleaning help if I'm lucky, someone at the weekends,
Wow.
but it's really hard to find people here to work.
It is tough in the remote towns, and we found that too. It's hard to yeah, just get the search there for people coming out. Is there a backpacker trail in New Mexico? Like where do most of your do people go like El Paso, New Mexico, or where are most of your guests traveling from?
Pretty much from all over. It's not, I mean, if someone flies in, then it's El Paso. That's the closest international airport. But I get mostly people who are on road trips and a lot of people who just do national parks, trying to get every national parks. And that's where they found me. I don't get backpackers so much because there's no bus that goes up here. There's no public transportation or anything. Nothing that goes to Alamogordo. I don't know why everybody keeps calling me right now. I'm sorry. And so that's a bit of a difficult thing for backpackers. So you do need to have a car here. I do get motorcycle groups. There is an off-road motorcycle trail kind of close by. But mostly people who come here in the summertime for hiking because it's cooler up here, enjoying the outdoors and, like I said, the national parks and enjoy Cloudcroft.
Nice. What what would look like looking back when you first started, what have you learned about yourself now that you've been running a hostel for 20 years that you're proud of or you've noticed?
What I'm proud of, or what
I guess,
I'm
yeah.
proud of that. It just makes me happy if people like it. That's all I can say. It's just if they enjoy this, and if this is a huge house. I mean, we live upstairs, we live above the hostel, but if I can share this beauty here and all the knowledge I have from traveling with my guests, and they appreciate it, and they're happy that they found it, and they tell me about it, and they come back again, then that's what I'm mostly proud of. Pretty much making this little tiny hostel known and still running after 20 years.
Right. Yeah. No, that it's so delightful serving the guests and giving them a great vacation. Just like I'm sure you had so many great, probably hostel experiences cruising through America in the 90s on your motorcycle.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like what I'm especially proud of, and it changed a lot when I traveled by myself as a woman. It was a lot different. I got a lot of comments from people. I mean, there was no social networking, no Google Maps, nothing like that. You have a paper map and you travel and you don't share it, you just do the experience. But I got a lot of weird comments that a woman traveling by herself. Now, this changed a lot, but I still realize that women are still reluctant sometimes or afraid to travel by themselves. So, advertising this or telling them so they can tell their friends that this is a safe place. And it is especially safe because we live upstairs. So, if even nobody else is in the hostel besides one guy and one woman, they're safe because I'm always there
Yeah.
because I live there, and it gives them that because it's still a stigma to travel by yourself. Like I said, it changed a lot, but as long as you have a place, and that's what I felt when I traveled by myself, staying in hostels is it's just even if nobody's there, you're still not that alone than when you're in a hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. You have the yeah, the other guests, the hosts, the owners in your case, and so many hostels have female only dorms, which is so important. I recommend that to other hostel owners. Making a female only dorm can really attract a lot more solo female travelers. So very important to have there.
Yeah,
Um,
the co-ed room is something that, first of all, we don't have space for a third room. But I also realized that guys are not happy having women in their rooms because
hmm,
there were some occasions where I said, hey, can I put that woman in there? And they said, no, we don't feel comfortable with that. And so I just kept it strictly male, female. And, if there's a different genders or transgender, whatever, you pick the one where you're most comfortable.
gotcha. Nice. Talking about the town, what do people do when they arrive at your hostel? Tell us a little bit more about like experiences, activities. What can people expect?
Well, like I said, most of it is hiking in White Sands. So we do have maps from White Sands. We have sleds because people would go, we have those little saucers and you slide down the dunes. It's a fun thing to do.
Nice.
So we have those so people can borrow. So I do give them a lot of tips for hiking. And I always ask them, I don't have a handout. I always try to make it as personal as possible to ask them how much time you have and how experienced you are and stuff like that because hiking is a big thing here. And then Cloudcroft is a nice town. It's not there's not a lot of restaurants and a lot of places to go out, but we have a really good brewery. So I'm trying to give them tips where to go eat and where to buy food and things like that. So what they expect here is pretty much outdoors. Everything is outdoorsy, and it's experience the mountains and wildlife. We have elks coming on the property and occasionally a mountain lion passing by. So
Wow. Quite the base camp for adventure, it
it
sounds like.
is, and most of the people, it really happens that people hang out here all day unless they stay longer and work here. But most times people are out the door in the morning and come back at night full of adventures and experiences and enjoying this area.
Yeah. And do you have does the Continental Divide Trail, as far as hikers, do they come through there?
No, that's a little too far off, I think, the Continental Divide. That's there. We don't get many of them. Like I said, we barely get anybody without a car because you're kind of stuck here.
Gotcha.
And there
Is
is
there
hiking trails from the hostel besides that you can hike on the property if you want. But that's kind of not a trail, it's kind of more wilderness hiking.
Gotcha. So is it like a seasonal, kind of different, obviously different seasons, you get different kinds of customers, and I guess, what has that been like, and how have you tried to, set yourself up to take advantage or, have the hostel do the best it can through the seasons? As it is, hosting in a mountain town, we know from experience is tough, especially when it starts snowing. Some of the hardest hosting is when it's pounding snow outside and you got to shovel the driveway. The guests are sliding around in the snow. It can be,
Yeah, we don't have, we had this year, we had a pretty bad winter. We had only one good snow. And so that is something we don't struggle with that much. We're really happy when it snows, pretty much.
okay.
The our main season is summertime. It's Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's where we get most people because we used to get a lot of people also from El Paso, but this year everything kind of stopped, and it has to do with immigration, I'm pretty sure. People don't travel that much, and but it really is hard for me to say since the pandemic what kind of people are coming and what kind of season is actually the best season because it's been varying so dramatically over
Hmm.
those last 6 years.
Right. Yeah, definitely shook things up and resettling.
Yeah, and I cannot really say that I'm catering to one group of people. I'm trying to be a hostel for all ages. So I do allow families with little kids. I really welcome older people. And I have people who are 70, 80, 90 years old who sometimes show up. My majority of group, I think I would say is mid 20s to mid 30s and couples and stuff like that. But I'm not particular catering to one group because I try, for me as a hostel is that you all sit down on a table and you all talk to each other. It doesn't matter what age you are, and I'm trying to still continue that. And it works for the most part.
Sure. Yeah, no, the community, the connection, that's the beauty of hostels, how you people come together and can learn so much and just open their eyes to new things. And yeah, great advice there. Allowing families. Every destination is different, so you got to kind of know your destination a little bit. But yeah, I agree. We take families, and um, it can definitely help a lot especially during the slower seasons.
Yeah.
Um,
I always ask if I meet my guest, and I usually ask them, have you stayed in a hostel before? And like I said, 50% say no. And I said, let me explain it. And my basic rules are respect each other, be nice to each other, and clean up after yourself. Those are my basic rules for hostel. And they all usually smile because they're like, hey, be nice to each other. That's just, you know, and I don't have any problems here. I mean, I don't allow any parties. That's the only, because I'm not a party hostel. There's other hostels who do that pretty well. And so everybody's really respectful of each other. And I think that is something that I think we're losing since the pandemic a little bit, in my opinion.
Yeah, great points there. Asking guests if they've ever stayed in a hostel before. Again, being able to kind of cater the check-in based on their response there to make people feel comfortable. Because if someone's never stayed in a hostel and you do a check-in thinking they've stayed in a hostel, the guest can be completely lost or just not get it and then maybe check out and not even understand what's going on. So being able to explain to them how a hostel works, the shared spaces, be respectful, all the things you mentioned is a great tip of advice.
Yeah,
Um,
they don't. I mean, I get people who call me and ask what a hostel is, and as soon as I say shared bathroom, they usually hang up.
yeah,
And that is, I'm like, they're lost, but trying to, and then getting the feedback from people who stayed here the first time and then actually really enjoyed it and didn't have a problem sharing a bathroom with another woman. They're not mixed bathroom, they're separate by male and female. So, but that is, I think, in my opinion, that's an American thing, the bathroom situation. And I know a lot of hostels changed, having more private bathrooms and stuff like that, but we cannot do this without completely gutting everything and starting over. And at this point, I'm not doing that.
yeah. No, it sounds like you got a very nice situation going on there with the organize the bathrooms. And yeah, a lot of time once you try it once, you realize how, it's not bad at all and it's such a great deal. And yeah, I think we'll see more and more Americans try it as time goes on.
I
So
think it's maybe coming back a little bit more. I mean, I heard that a lot of hostels closed during the pandemic. I mean, when I opened up the hostel, I think there were 10 hostels in New Mexico. And
wow.
as far as I know, we have two left. One is me and then the Santa Fe one.
Yeah,
And
no, I think a lot of hostels. I mean, there's many like some of the biggest brands like Selena. I mean, they had hundreds of hostels and they closed down. I think, you know, we've learned at ITH that, we think the best hostels and the ones that are going to survive are like the exact kind of things like you're running, owner operated, smaller, intimate hostel where you can, keep the expenses low, be involved in the craft yourself and host the guests, give them show them the magical parts of staying in hostels, and that's kind of the secret sauce needed to stay open because we've seen through other hostels that have gone out of business that it's not a hotel. You can't just build a big cookie cutter building and think it's going to work as a hostel with a bunch of bunk beds. I mean, depending on the destination you're in, but the uh the best backpacker hostels, the hostels where you get to really connect with the people are the smaller, more intimate ones, from 20 to 60 people or so. You can still get to learn everyone's name and create that friendly vibe.
yeah, I think it's the smaller hostels are like a healthy mixture between an Airbnb and a big hotel because it is personal, but we're not that much in a business than you sometimes in a private house in an Airbnb. So it's a little bit different, but it is more personal. And I mean, for me personally, I like to make it personal because I'm the owner and it's important to me to talk to my guests if I can. Sometimes I don't meet them. Sometimes they check themselves in and check themselves out and I don't meet them. And it doesn't have to be. And it's a lot of here is for me, and that's maybe old fashioned, is on a trust basis that I want to trust people. And,
Yep.
and they feel that, and I had never anything destroyed or anything bad happening. Um, maybe over the years a few bad apples, but in general, people are trying to, and I appreciate it. I think they see what you put in and then I appreciate it.
Definitely. Nice. Will you be heading to NAHA, the conference coming up in Montreal?
No, we don't this year
Oh,
because the time frame never works for me. That is the only time I close the hostel is middle of April to middle of May to take a break.
okay. Well, we'll miss you at the conference, but you bring up a good point of closing down the hostel and taking a break. Obviously, I'm guessing that's your slow season.
That is my slow season, and I figured out that as I run this by myself and I don't have any feedback, I need a break because I work
Mhm.
7 days a week and I need to fresh ideas. I need sometimes I use it for renovation. This year we're going on a big trip. So it's just a refresher pretty much to go into the summer season and take care of myself. Um,
Nice.
that's actually very important for me. And as I don't have anybody to run it, that's when I just close it.
Nice. No, that's again, that's great advice, especially for these smaller hostels. I know when we first started, you have that mindset of I'm going to be open every day. I'm going to get all these reservations. The people are going to come, high season, low season, and we personally learned the hard way that it's better just to, make your money when it's there, run your business when it's busy. And that's a unique thing about a hostel. If there's not demand in the low season, you can shut it down for a month, give your staff a break, give yourself a break, go enjoy life. And, it really, you'll end up making more money by closing down versus trying to stay open and pay all the bills and keep, staying busy yourself and only having one guest a day or something like that. So it's smart to shut it down, take a break, because the show is always running when the hostel's open. Sometimes you can't, fix stuff or do stuff or really get away because, every day there's people coming, people leaving. So closing
And I
down,
mean,
turning off for a month or so is a great, great strategy.
and it's like some people say, well, don't you have anybody to run it? I said, not someone I trust 150% to say it like that. And if I don't have anybody I completely trust, then me going away and someone running it and maybe creating bad reviews gives me more stress than relaxation. So that's why I thought, that I need to just close it down for a month and it doesn't hurt the business at all. And I've
Right,
said it doesn't, I don't get any complaint. It's just not available to book.
right.
And you have to take care of yourself because, as we all know, and nobody talks about this, working with the public is very straining. I mean,
Yeah.
answering the phones and answering questions where you're like, oh my God, really? I mean, or you get questions as a one, if it's not snowing, I'm not booking. I'm like, okay. Uh, there's all these little things that sound funny, but they add up to the stress. And you don't want to be stressed out when you deal with your guests.
No, no, that's so funny you mentioned that. We get that call all the time. Will it be snowing in 3 weeks on Friday? And you're like, I have no
Yeah.
idea. That always happens. But yeah, no, it starts with, the hostel. It's all about the people and the host, the owner. You got to be happy and delightful if people are gonna be showing up at your door. So taking care of yourself first is definitely essential to survive and enjoy the hostel game.
It's
Um,
important. And then also for me, it is that I traveled a lot and we still love to travel and also explore our state. So I can tell people about it and say, hey, this is a cool park I discovered, or this is a great campground, or this is where you can do dispersed camping, or there's some great trails there and exchange that. And they really like it. And I like the feedback from them on their experience. So that is something what they also appreciate, what you don't get in a hotel. And I cannot always provide it, but I try to provide it as much as I can.
yeah. Nice. What in closing here, a person, a young, say German girl looking to open a hostel, ready to explore, what advice would you give her or give them?
The advice I give people who ask to open up a hostel, I said, have an idea what you want first. What kind of hostel you want, mixed party, whatever, what you want. Then have an idea where you want to be, and then pick a place that is close to at least one attraction to something that attracts people to that area. Because otherwise, you're just out there and nobody finds you. And then if you can have a little bit money in the background or a second job you can do, start small and then work up from there. And when you start small, you can have your second job for a while and work it. I still work architecture, so I have basically two businesses, but I can juggle it. But be smart about what you're doing. Starting small, I think, is the biggest advice. If you want to do little cabins, start with one or two. You can always add on later. But I think what sometimes the mistake is going too big because hostels are not that well known in the United States, or be something unique in that area. But I think the most important is be somewhere where people want to travel because we're based on traveling.
Yeah. No, that's beautifully said. That's some words of wisdom right there. So, awesome. Well, Stephanie,
Did
thank
I
you so
do all did I do all those? No.
right. Nobody does, but we try. So awesome, Stephanie. Well, thank you so much for chatting. It's been awesome to learn more about you and Cloudcroft. And for all the listeners passing through New Mexico, go visit Stephanie at Cloudcroft and enjoy the mountains and a wonderful host experience.
Thank you, Bobby.
So, all right. Thank you so much. Have a good day, Stephanie.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.